Morning guys, welcome back to Backcountry Amateur Radio. I'm up here at the archery range and decided to give my shoulder a little rest. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the GM-30. Seems to be a popular radio on my channel. In fact, most of the popular stuff has more to do with programming the radio and not so much getting out in the field and using it. So I need to do a lot more of the using it. I'm working on a couple videos about that. So, well, there's some more programming stuff for you. And yeah, I think this is some of the finer details I think you'll find interesting. I found them interesting. So, all right, let's dive in.
Well, the smoke certainly is unusual for a fire that far away.
Well, I know we've dealt with smoke before, but I've never seen it this bad. This morning.
Okay, let's get started. Turn this on. And I want to show you, like right now I'm in VFO mode. And I was actually just listening to a conversation on this repeater. This is the downlink. So as far as repeaters are concerned, the frequency you see on screen, 147.2, is your downlink from the repeater. So that's the repeater transmit frequency. And typically with repeaters, you don't necessarily need to have a receive code. So let's take a look here at some of the menus here. I'm going to go into the DCS receive because I messed around with that a little bit because I wanted to see something. I actually saved this frequency with this receive DCS, and it did save with that receive DCS. Now, there's no sense in trying to save a transmit because this radio can't transmit on those frequencies because it's a GMRS radio. It'd be against the FCC rules to allow this to transmit on VHF or ham bands. So GMRS radios are restricted to GMRS bands, so keep that in mind. You can receive. This is a cool radio in the fact that you can scan through the VHF, I think like 136 megahertz to 174 and 400 through 520 megahertz. I have to double check. I'll post a little thing down here to show you if I was right or wrong. Anyway, so it can scan, and in order to get to VFO, which is variable frequency oscillator, you need to hold down on the menu for like 5 seconds. That's how you switch between channel mode, where you see the numbers here, and VFO. VFO is just kind of free scan. Keep in mind though, when you're in VFO, unlike for ham radio operators, a VFO on these radios is not going to allow you to transmit. So just keep that in mind. So let's go back, and I want to show you something really interesting, because on like a Baofeng, you can't do this. I can go into the menu, and I have this set for the DCS code 25. Well, I can go and change that so it's off. Now, if someone's on that repeater, I could actually hear them. I can exit, and to see if that's saved, all I do is turn off the radio, turn it back on, hit menu, select 9, and it's still off. So despite that I saved it initially, when I saved it from the menu or from the VFO with the DCS 25, I was still able to change it in the channel mode. So that's some flexibility that I don't see on other radios with this firmware. So there is some cool stuff there. Other neat thing, I think I've already done the video with the weather. If you want to check your battery charge, hold down on, or just press the pound, the Z, voltage, 8.2 voltage. So I think you can see the little 3 bars up there, but knowing the voltage is actually kind of cool. So let's press the exit menu, or the exit, and that toggles between the line A and line B. Another thing that we ought to look at really quick is repeaters. Now, repeaters are always a question with these because I think they are not as well understood in the GMRS community, because Now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I can't find a lot of information about repeater use in this community. The ham radio world is very open. So let's see, that's channel 23 is my repeater. So I'm going to toggle down to line B by pressing exit. And I'm going to type in 0, 2, 3 so I can see what frequency this is. Now watch this. There's a 5 megahertz split between this repeater. And there's no repeater in my community. So I'm just going to go ahead and transmit, throw out my call sign so I'm being legal. And you can watch how that changes. WRFS 364. Do you see that? 467. WRFS 364 clear. So it transmits on 467.55 and it receives on 462.55. And what you receive is the line that you're being shown while your radio is in receive mode, which is more or less idle. So that is what you need to know about repeaters. Because of that shift, you're not going to be using a repeater mode on this radio with another radio unless there's a repeater in between you two. Communication radio to radio needs to be what we call simplex, a single frequency with no shift. So just keep that in mind when you're messing around with your radios that are capable of repeaters on GMRS. Some of those repeaters are set to key up or turn on when they receive CTCSS or DCS like specified. So usually, a lot of times it's CTCSS because it's common, and you'll hear like a tone 88.5 or 100 hertz is your tone. And so you need to be aware that that's actually going to confuse other radios if you're trying to communicate radio to radio. It just doesn't work. So the receive is generally just open, or there's no codes, no tones. And that really can get a little confusing, but just keep in mind that works because the repeater is transmitting out with no tone and no code. So you need to make sure you have yours off. Unless otherwise specified by the repeater owner on receive is not going to have a tone or a code. I've been sitting here for about 5 minutes just talking, and these guys wandered in. We have a fair amount of wild turkeys in this area. All right, so please, this is just a light touch on the repeaters and kind of the way they work. I am working on another video that's going to get into a little bit more detail, the use of tones, codes, repeaters, and the offset or the shift. So, all right, so other things on this radio. What do you guys want to know? Like, yes, we have FM radio. We have a flashlight, which also has a blink on it, which, that's okay. I don't need a flashlight on my radio. FM radio, which actually works really well. Usually channel memories are set, and you can't do anything to change that. So, and that goes for codes and tones. But with this radio, because of the nature of the design and the laws that govern GMRS, you have to be able to change your codes and tones within the channel mode. So VFO and channel mode, you'll be able to change the tones. The thing about changing tones in the VFO is it's kind of just don't mess around with the transmit. There's no reason to, because you won't be able to transmit. So I think that's going to be kind of an important distinction compared to, say, UV5R or almost any other radio that people get and program to use with GMRS, even though they're not GMRS certified radios. So I think it's really important to know that the receive is really all you need to mess around with when you have the scanning feature active. Low power, you see the L. Well, let's change that really quick. We'll press the key button, the star or the asterisk, the key, change to, oh, that's interesting. You know why? Because we're in VFO mode. You're not going to be transmitting. So let's change back to channel mode. Let's see. Repeater, I should be able to change over to high. See that? Change to high. And let's go back to some of the other frequencies. Now that's preset to low. Let's change that. High. Okay, so something to keep in mind here. Say we go to channel 8. Now channel 8 through 14 are restricted to 0.5 watt by the FCC. They're interstitial channels, which means they're FRS and GMRS. And I'm not sure what the idea is, but they are still restricted to 0.5 watt, despite 1 through 7 and 15 and up to 22. You can have 2 watts on FRS and 5 watts on GMRS. And actually, on GMRS, I believe those upper channels, you might be able to use more power. I think it's up to 50 watts. Again, I'll post a picture showing you that I'm either right or wrong. So, or just a title here. So, all right. So the next thing that we should look at now that we're in channel 8, which is kind of the beginning, is can I change this to high power? No. Repeated keying on the power switch, I can't switch that to high power, so I'm restricted to low power. Okay, everybody, that's it for this this video, I think. Actually, really quick, one more thing. Finding a GMRS antenna. This is an SMA female radio, SMA male antenna. I found that the Nagoya NA771 works really, really well on the GMRS bands. It's got a very low SWR. So this antenna has a high SWR. The antenna that came with it has a higher SWR. And keep in mind, I'm using this SWR meter in line. So the antenna and the radio are both right here like they would be naturally, and I'm holding them in my hand. Testing a HT antenna separate from the radio on a bench is very hard to do. Ham radio crash course, Josh talks about this. He's got a video about it, and if I can find it, I'll post a link below. But it's very difficult to test these when they're not in their natural state right here. So keep that in mind. Find a GMRS antenna that works for you. There goes that turkey. And also keep in mind that you need an SMA male antenna. All right, that's it. Stay safe out there. And yeah, share with me what are your backcountry communication plans? Are you using GMRS? Are you a ham radio operator? And what radios are you using? These are Radioddity. Just it's been fun to do these reviews and show people how to use them. And I hope I'm covering the gamut of programming options. I do want to stick pretty simple, but I want you to get some understanding out of this so that you get other radios, you understand how to get them up on the air without a huge struggle. And keep in mind, I don't specialize in doing the computer programming or computer software, you know, whatever the desktop programming software is. I'm always going to be talking about handheld programming in the field with the keypad, because that's where we are. No one's carrying a laptop with them out here. So, all right, Backcountry Amateur Radio.